Well, hello. Welcome to the Nothing is Wasted podcast. I'm so grateful that you're joining us yet again for another great episode of the Nothing is Wasted podcast. You know, every single week on this podcast, I'm reminded of something pretty profound. Every story we share here only exists because someone once believed that hope could reach them in their valley. And maybe they didn't believe it for themselves. Maybe they had to borrow someone else's faith. Maybe they listened to podcasts like this or stories that were shared at their church or by a friend, and they borrowed someone else's faith, and it gave them a little seed to believe that hope could reach them in the valley. All of these stories have something in common. Somebody somewhere said, I don't know how God's going to redeem this, but I'm willing to trust that he can. And that single act of trust, of showing up, of telling the truth, became a lifeline for someone else. And that's really what this whole ministry is about. That's what this podcast is all about. That's why we started it. One story becoming an open door for someone else's story, and then someone else's, and then someone else's, and then these ripple effects. It's one person's brokenness becoming another person's breakthrough. Sorry to be cliche, but I'm a pastor at heart. That's what I do. But you'll remember it. You see, that's why all this month we're focusing on our Legacy of Hope end of the year giving campaign. And listen, friends, this campaign isn't just about giving. It's a celebration. As we've been diving into the last 6 years, kind of poring over stories and statistics and different things that we can get our hands on, it has been such a reminder of God's faithfulness, and we're celebrating that. We're recognizing that stories of redemption have now, these stories, they've become a movement. It's become something way bigger than just a story. God's multiplying hope in ways that we could never have orchestrated if we had tried. But here's what I've learned over and over through the last 6 years of Nothing is Wasted Ministries. Every redeemed story becomes a seed of hope for the next person, for the next story. Here, I want to read one of the stories that came in, and really it stopped us and our teams, all of our team in their tracks. It's from a mom who walked through one of the deepest valleys a parent could ever face. And here's what she wrote. This is from a podcast listener. In May of 2020, my husband and I experienced the unimaginable pain of losing our 15-year-old son to suicide. 2 years ago, I discovered the Nothing is Wasted podcast. I haven't stopped listening since. Every episode has been a source of encouragement, insight, and deep healing. I often find myself taking notes because there's just so much wisdom shared by Davey and the incredible guests. Let me interject for just a second right now and just say that most of the wisdom is shared by the incredible guests. That's what I love about what I get to do, just interviewing them and drawing them out. But she said, so much wisdom shared by Davey and the incredible guests who generously open their hearts and stories. As career educators, my husband and I have since created a suicide prevention and awareness presentation that we now bring to schools across our state. Good for you guys. My goodness. While our message doesn't explicitly contain faith-based language, it is deeply rooted in the truths and hope we've absorbed from this podcast. The stories we've heard have shaped the way we speak to students about pain, resilience, and purpose, and we've seen firsthand how lives are being touched. I love that God, sorry, just got a little emotional there for a second. You know, it's really crazy to me. I'm sitting in a room by myself right now recording this, and it's just crazy to me that doing this week after week is touching this many lives. And sometimes you just have those kairos moments where God steps in and reminds you that he's in the middle of the valley with you. He's going to see you through. And if you lean in to him and be faithful, and even when you're not faithful, he's faithful to not waste it. It'll be a ripple effect, just like this woman sharing just how many lives are being touched in schools, in a place that I wouldn't normally as a pastor be stepping into. That's meaningful to me. She goes on to say, I love that God continues to get the glory through this work. Nothing is Wasted has not only helped me partner with God in redeeming my own pain, but it's also playing a role in helping young people realize that their story isn't over. Davey, thank you. Thank you to the entire Nothing is Wasted team for being faithful in your calling. You're truly making a difference. Whew. My goodness. Friends, this is the kind of legacy that your generosity creates. And stories like hers, lives like hers, it creates a ripple effect that goes places we may never see, but God is absolutely in it. And one day on the other side of eternity, we get to see it. And just every once in a while, we get a glimpse of it on this side of eternity. And it's just a sacred, sacred thing. I don't know who you are, the listener that wrote this in, but I'm just so grateful that you did. So grateful that you did. Guys, this December, we're inviting you to be a part of what God is doing through this ministry. We really sense that God is doing something not only sense it, we see it, but we sense that we're just on the edge and the verge of something really big that God's going to do through this ministry. We have a $50,000 matching gift this month, which means every dollar that you give is doubled. So again, no hard ask right now. It's just an invitation to open your heart and ask the Lord what part he might want you to play. Because as you can hear, he's moving. He's healing. He's redeeming. Whew. And today's episode is another beautiful reminder of that. My guest today is Rachel Awtrey, and she knows firsthand what it means to live a story that she didn't ask for and yet at the same time experience the redemptive, surprising kindness of God in the middle of it. She's an online encourager, a mom of 2 boys, a military wife, a blogger, the host of Real Talk with Rachel Awtrey, which I had the privilege of being on several months ago. And this time I get to flip the table and interview her. She calls herself the girl who shares too much, but honestly, it is her honesty and her candor that opens space for not just honesty from others, but healing in others. She talks about the good, the grief, the mundane, the messy, and how surrendering her life to Jesus in her college dorm room set her on a trajectory she never would have expected. She shares about walking through the sudden loss of her father, the unhealthy coping that followed, and the grace that met her right in the middle of it. Her newest book, Love Your Life, even if you don't like it all the time, it really is it's a true testament to the truth that God can help us love the very life we once wanted to escape. And I think her story today is going to remind you that God is writing stories we could never write ourselves. Stories filled with healing, with honesty, with hope. So wherever you're listening from or watching this YouTube video, settle in, open your heart. We're going to listen in or tune in to my conversation with Rachel Awtrey. Well, Rachel Awtrey, it's so great to have you on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Davey. This is fun. We flipped the scripts.
We
literally.
did. This is quite a treat, quite a delight. So at the time that you're listening to this and watching this, guys, I was on Rachel's I think it'll be a couple months ago at this point. So this is going to release here in a couple, but that was such a great conversation. And now being able to turn the tables, this is one of the things I love about podcasting, Rachel. You get to meet really incredible people who have such insightful thoughts and wisdom, and you just get to have conversations and people listening to it.
We get paid to do this, I love this. This is like my 8-year-old's dream come true.
I can't imagine. And so we're grateful for those of you guys who are tuning in. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear Rachel's story and just the wisdom that has come from it, what God is doing in her heart. Before we dive into this, Rachel, I would love for our community to hear a little bit about what you do. What does life look like for you? Just give us a little context for what it is that you wake up and you get to the joy of doing every day.
I love this. Okay. Well, I also feel like I need to say at the time of recording this, because my life is it flips very quickly in cool ways, but also hard ways. So who knows? At this moment though, I am a wife to my husband, Thomas. He serves in the military. He's a pilot, but he also flies for funsies in the civilian world too. I feel like I have to say that because I think it sets up like a context to my day to day. Like when I'm home with the boys and Thomas, we are home, we are family. And when he's gone, I solo mom a lot too. So that gives people some good context into insight, revelation that the Lord brings me through.
We're going to talk about that down the track here in a little bit. So yeah, that's so good.
For sure. And then I have 2 boys. I'm a boy mom, which is so fun. It is a frat house and a half in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where I live. They are so fun. They're so rowdy. They are 4 and 2, which are epic ages. They're becoming best friends. No one's the bully and no one's the underdog. They both kind of go for it at the same time. It's very fun. And yeah, I have a podcast as well. Like Davey said, it's called Real Talk with Rachel Awtrey. I feel like the internet gets a bad rap, but I actually, when you do it well, love the internet. It is kind of like an online scrapbook for me. I have a life verse and it's 1 Thessalonians 5:7. Yes, 1 Thessalonians. Why am I now blanking? 5:8. Well, it says that I'm delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but my life as well, because you've become so dear to me. And it's this idea that like, I love talking about Jesus. And so I almost struggle to call it a ministry because I almost feel like it's a ninja ministry where I talk about what seems like frivolous things, but for the sake of the kingdom online. So you call it
like Jesus judo them from there. It's like, I'm just going to kind of carry you along.
Like you came for the link to the jeans, and then all of a sudden I'm sharing my Savior with you. And you're like, wait, I bamboozled, but I love it.
That. We call that like ministry camouflage. That's what I've always called it too. You know, and especially as a pastor, as we're helping people, hey, no matter what, you're in the marketplace, you're at your work, you're at your school, you are on a mission field and you're doing it over here, not just in real time. Okay, come on. My dog is barking in the background. You can hear this. Hey, this is Real Talk right now.
I was about to say, this is just
Rachel
Real
Awtrey,
Talk.
where you're just hearing in my studio, my dog barking in the background, which never happens. But what I was, you know, you're doing it on the internet. You're bringing that space to the internet. Obviously you're doing it in real time, in real life, but you're also doing it on that space. And it's just an incredible thing. I love, you know, Jesus sent 2 by 2 out, and the 72 that he sent out, or the 70, depending on the translation, they were not full-time ministry, like leaders. They were not the disciples that followed him full-time. So they were doing like what you're doing, and they're doing, you know, doctors and lawyers and attorneys and stuff. So I love that. It's an incredible thing. How did you get into this? I just am so curious what started. It always piques my curiosity to go, how does a podcaster get started? Because mine was a little bit unconventional. As a pastor, we were already kind of throwing sermons on podcasts. So it was like, well, let's try this. But how did you get started in all this?
I'm the opposite of you. I, back in 2018, my husband, okay, I should add this too. My husband was not always a pilot. When we got married, we went straight into ministry. We had a really cool ministry job, took us out to the Pacific Northwest. We romped around. It was so fun. He built ropes courses. We'd ride a 4-wheeler to work. Like it just was so different and epic. And we got married very quickly out of college. So we just were like young, dumb, broke, having a good time. And I just was posting it all over the internet. And I think it just was fascinating for people to watch. So we started slowly growing a following. Fast forward to 2018, I had a friend reach out to me, and we were both in these strange seasons of, we love championing our husbands, but like, what do we do? Like, I am trying to figure out, I feel a little restless, twiddling my thumbs. I know that there's a purpose here. Loving on the other college girls that are coming through, but there's something more. So she said, what if we started a podcast? Well, in 2018, I need to add, it was people like you who were, or like sermons that were getting thrown up as podcasts.
Yeah.
Or NPR or Crime Junkies. But I didn't feel like there was the intersection between faith that could be digested like entertainment. There was a lot of entertainment, but it was a little bit rowdy and grunge. And then there was the sermons, which are beautiful, but almost so dense that people would pass by them because they're like, I don't have time for that. So like, well, how do we bring the lighthearted, encouraging kind of conversation? So we did. And then I think we hit a really cool spot in the podcast timeline pre-pandemic. And then it just started to grow, which is really fun. But it's awesome. Like a talk show. It's like a Christian girl talk show where you always walk away with something fun, but it's not so frivolous that you don't have some kind of wisdom that you're leading to. Right.
You're like one of the OGs. That's what I love about it's like in that sweet spot where people were trying this out, but we didn't know what this was. There wasn't a whole lot of it. And I was like, well, let's just see and it took. And
let's just see. That's the theme of my life. What could happen? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, okay. So you're a boy mom. You're married to a man who's in the military.
Yeah.
We talk often on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. We talk about pain and suffering. it is ironic. Our viewers and our listeners will know now, but at this point, that we're a part of the That Sounds Fun network. We've kind of eased them into this, which feels like a cognitive dissonance to go, oh, okay, that sounds fun, but we're talking about suffering. But the reality is, and you're hitting that convergence with what you just said. The reality is life is full of this mixture of, and this tension between joy and sorrow. And you're not always going to experience joy, and you're not always going to experience sorrow. So that's also the good side of it. Jesus said there will be trouble in this world. You are, I mean, you can tell. I mean, if you're watching this, guys, you can tell Rachel's just full of joy. She's bubbly, just like has all this life about her.
But
right?
I'm okay with that.
You've gone through some really hard things too. And that's what I love about seeing your countenance and seeing the joy of the Lord in your face, even though you've gone through some really hard things. And your trauma hasn't gotten you stuck. Back when you were 16, you lost your father suddenly. And I'd love for you just to unpack that a little bit. I'd love to glean some perspective from what that was like as a teenager, very formidable year, to lose a massively key, important figure in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in a very fun, Christian, loving home. You used this word on our podcast, and I was like, that's what I'm going to start saying. It was very charming. VeggieTales, prayed over our meals, went to church, served at church, prayed for missionaries. Like, we were that family. I didn't understand hard. Or at least I maybe thought, oh, my family's doing it so well that this is such a blessing that we're getting rewarded with like a pretty easy life. The only thing hard I'll say that I knew that's so fascinating, because now that I'm an adult, I have so much compassion for what my parents were walking through. That as a kid, you have, that's just your normal. But my dad, as I was growing up, had kidney failure and was going through dialysis. That's actually how I feel like I've really fully understood the gospel, where he explained to me, it is through Judy, his donor, that I am able to live my life to the full. And it is only through Jesus, your donor, who's going to give you a transplant of a kind that allows you to live to the full, where we don't have to be hooked up to machines and dialysis and like so sick all the time. You can go out and live. And I got it. It like clicked to me at 9. Right. And so after that, we call it his bonus years that he had, where in my mind, I was so convinced Dad went through a hard thing. That was our hard thing. We'll check it off the list. He'll die old and gray and in bed, maybe a great grandfather kind of thing. And it was just so bizarre. He just started doing some fun, really cool things. He ran triathlons and became fluent in Arabic and did business as ministry overseas in the Middle East. Like, just was kind of understood the brevity of life. Yeah. And so he said, I will not hold myself back. Yeah. Let's just go. Right. And then, when I was 16, he was an avid rock climber, and he passed away in a rock climbing accident, which is
oh my goodness,
so bizarre to me. Every time I say it, I'm like, did that really happen? Again, because I was so convinced that we were okay and it was going to be okay. And, Dad saw death, and he came back, and he won't see death again until it hits his time. And his time in my mind was different than his time in God's. And so it just was a reckoning for sure for my whole family. We all grieved in really strange ways, made some poor decisions that meant that we had some collateral hardship we had to walk through, just because it just got really messy, was not clean, was not cute. We were surrounded by some really helpful people, community that was amazing, that help us pick up the pieces, but still it was up to us to do the hard work. Right. And that was just delayed. 16, my dad, amazing guy. Like spiritual, formative, had hard conversations, his discipline even. I was talking to my friends about this at a dinner we were at the other night. Just like all about how we were raised, and was talking about some of my dad's mission or discipline strategies, and they were just hilarious, like so countercultural, grace-driven, practical. So it's so fascinating, because now I'm an adult, I'm in my 30s, I have my own family, I have my own career, and there's this more grief layers that I'm having to walk through that I thought I had kind of walked through, a decade and a half ago. And now I'm having to face new things just because there's new layers of my life I'm living without him. I couldn't anticipate how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Sounds like he was such a giant of a kingdom contributor. I mean, just what an incredible man of God.
You feel like you have to honor people that are no longer with us. And this is where I'm like trying to drive my ship home. I'm not saying these things because he's not with us.
Like memorializing him, and so you're embellishing the things that
I'm
were
not
great,
being polite. I'm being so for real. That this man, like, he changed me in a lot of ways. I wish I could tell him, and I still have questions that linger from conversations he started.
Yeah.
That like the grief is intense, but I'm also grateful because the grief is there. Someone told me this, that grief is often all the overflow of love that you weren't able to give them while they were here.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why our family's grief is so great. Cause we're like, man, like he loved the things that we're up to today. Yeah. My brothers and I, my mom, like
he would have been such a champion of those things.
Yes. Yeah. Champion.
Wow. So his rock climbing accident had nothing to do with his kidney failure and death.
Doesn't that kind of make you mad a little bit?
That. Yeah. I did not see that coming at all.
Didn't see that coming.
My goodness, Rachel, what was it like for, I mean, a 16-year-old, right? So here you are, you face this, like, at least on some level, a reality check where you go, okay, here's a confrontation with mortality that normally, typically a 16-year-old or prior to that, it's not going to have to face, right? Or I guess it was how old, you were probably 11, 12 when he went into dialysis. Is that what?
Yeah, I grew up with him.
Oh, you said 9.
Being sick.
That's right.
But then, but he had a transplant, I think, when I was 8 or 9.
Okay.
I was in 2nd grade. Yeah.
So you kind of had a little bit of this, like you said, well, this is just our life, and we think we've gotten to the other side of this. And now just this accident that out of the blue, completely upending, takes this force out of your life. Mm-hmm. What was that like as a teenager? If you can draw back and think through, man, as a teenager, 16 years old, in these pivotal moments in life, where did that leave you?
I think the best way to describe it is I was so numbed out. Not because I had chosen anything in that moment to numb me. I think just like my nervous system was just shocked.
Yeah.
Like, didn't see that coming. Also, to give you an idea of some timeline, he passed away on January 2nd, and my birthday is January 5th. So then there was also this super awkward, like, how do I do this? Because you're asking me to roller coaster and yo-yo this thing, and I can't fake it. And it was awkward. Like everything about it was just awkward. No one else saw it coming. I think, numbed out is the best way to put it, where I was watching grown men grieve. And that was strange to me. So I was like, well, now I have to maybe hold it together for them. There were decisions that other people in my family made that I haven't talked about publicly because they're not all my stories to tell. But I just was, in the shadows of them happening. I was watching adults that I respected make decisions that were difficult to reckon with, that did have an impact on my life. And I ended up not living at home for a while and living with my young life leader and having these, it felt like whiplashed into adult responsibilities as a 16-year-old.
Right.
Which told me that I have adult freedom to go and I have every excuse in the world to try things I've ever been curious about because I'm the girl with a dead dad now. Like that's how, like in my community, people are like, you'll have patience for the McAfees, they're going through some stuff. And so I took that as all the permission slips to just do and be, and lost a lot through, again, then my own poor decisions and behavior. It got messy. I was so numb. Yeah.
Well, it happens more often than not where we experience grief. Rachel, when I experienced the loss of Amanda, prior to that, I didn't have like an empathy toward pain, but then immediately all the things I was beginning to feel that I was so confused by. And I started going, oh, I see why people make really destructive decisions because I felt like I had this hall pass for, just like what you're saying, almost anything. It's like on some level you have broken, your give a darn is broken, right? If we're going to be a little PG with it, but you're just like, well, look what I just went through. And so you feel like this license to do that. And yet at the same time, you know, you grew up with these foundational things. So I'm sure you're feeling conflicted too. And you're going, what in the world is the meaning of all of this stuff? Mm-hmm. I'm curious about like as a 3, I know that you're a 3 on the Enneagram, 3 and 4, in fact, which is what I am. So this is why I'm even more curious. How did you see, because, you know, we can tend to be we have a lot of emotions, but we don't understand our emotions and sometimes very unaware of it. But then we're also very conscientious of other people, not just how other people are perceiving us, but like to what you just said, oh, I feel like I need to carry some of this for other people. I've got to be strong. I've got to, you know, how would you filter like what you experience in grief through kind of your own propensities in that as an Enneagram 3?
That is a very, very good question. I'm reflecting.
That's okay. You could, I put you on the spot. I
love it.
It's something that I've thought about a lot when it comes to Enneagram and like how each type kind of approaches grief, you know, if there's some kind of a pattern.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I think that I'm able to sit where I am now and look back on that 16-year-old Rachel, and it breaks me. It hurts me. I don't think anyone told me like you're like grieving is more productive than doing the things that you've always been told have been productive. It will be hard and it will be holy and it will be uncomfortable, but it will bring you to a place where you're actually able to move forward with energy, strategy, productivity, all the things that your inner desires to be.
Right.
I wanted to be productive. Like I didn't want to be benched. I felt like life had benched me. So I was like, watch me. I'll do all the things. And so I did. I got very involved. I think again, like that was a numbing coping mechanism. Coping mechanism. I think, I like productivity, I think kept my mind off of things. It made me feel like I was actually making something of my life when I felt like life was trying to make something of me. I just went for it, overcommitted, burned out, while also trying to maintain what I felt like was a double life where at PM Rachel was different than AM Rachel. And everyone also knew that. So I think I was confusing the heck out of other people too, which left me with, I feel like, a lot of personal relational cleanup to be like, no, well, let me explain. And so I think there was a lot of justifying. I just was so confused. I think is the best way to put it. Again, messy. It was not clean. And I think that's why when I was reflecting, I was like, how do I even put together a concise answer that also is integrous to what that was like? And I just don't think it's concise. And I don't think it wouldn't make sense unless you saw it happen. And people that did see it happen were like, Mayday, Mayday. Yeah. I did have people in my life try and offer me some lifelines too, because I think it was very obvious how much of a sinking ship I was in that moment.
Wow. Well, even the way you just articulated that, Rachel, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, and that's part of it because I can see those same propensities in me and what grief does to just completely, it just upends you and it
does. Yeah.
You know, so I can understand the whole idea of like, well, I'm going to take control of something that I've just felt like I'm out of control of. I'm going to be productive. I'm going to prove something. And yet at the same time, I'm also like going to go ahead and like fall into a little bit of this victim mentality. It's like this weird, you're holding both, like, I'm not going to be a victim. And also I'm very much a victim here. And I'm going to lean into the sides that I need to lean into to be able to like keep my life feeling like it's being held together right now when everything's falling apart.
I think it almost to me felt like a dog with like an invisible fence and the shock collar. Like I'd get so close and I'd get zapped and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's wrong. I won't do that again. You know, and then I'll like go back to my yard and then I'd like see other people having fun and I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna help me. And then I would run out and get zapped again. I'm like, oh no. And like, I mean, you can read into that metaphor as much as you want, but like I think I just was trying things and then they'd hurt me. And I'm like, oh, wait, never mind. That's not actually freedom. Maybe freedom is staying here in this yard. And then I'd be in the yard, but I didn't want to be in the yard I was in because I didn't like the life that I had. So then I would try to escape my yard and that wasn't good for me either. So I just was everything just felt like, I don't know what I can trust, who I can trust, what actually can hold the weight of what things feel like right now for me.
Wow. Yeah, you said something really, really, just really insightful when it comes to like the productivity that you could have experienced if you had just dove into grief and lament as opposed to the cover up or the coping mechanism of productivity that you tried to lean into. Mm-hmm. When did that switch for you? When did you go, wait a minute, I've been approaching this all wrong? Was it a slow, gradual thing? Was there like a turning point where you're like, okay, totally. I've got to deal with this? What did that look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lived that double life for a while, for a few years actually. Was even like a leader in some ministry organizations in college, and also did sorority stuff. And mm-hmm. also I just was so confused myself, and I'm sure I confused other people too. And it's funny now being on the other side of college and reputation, all the things, people reach out and they're like, you're actually really cool. I'm like, thank God.
Thank you.
I needed to hear that because I never knew what anyone thought about me. Yeah.
Well, and remind me too, Rachel, where you grew up, because I know you're in Birmingham.
Yeah, I grew up in South Carolina.
Okay.
I went to Clemson
there's a
University.
little bit of a cultural thing here too that's at play with Southern Christianity.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. I heard all the cliches. I grew up in the Bible Belt. You could throw a rock and hit stained glass. Like there were so many people trying to preach at me, help me, aid me, counsel me. And I was like, that's just not going to help. And I think this is something too, especially interesting for 16-year-olds that are going through something, is like, unfortunately, but fortunately, God has designed a prefrontal cortex of a 16-year-old to actually have to touch a stove to know it's hot. Wow. So when life happens and everyone's like, it's hot, watch out. One of the only ways sometimes, especially in the middle of trauma and grief and just the cluttered mind, is having to be like, I don't know, again, what I could trust, what's true. Because you also told me this life is safe and it doesn't feel that way right now. Let me touch the stove. And they do. And I think all the people that were trying to keep me from making poor decisions didn't keep me from making poor decisions. Yeah. It just strained a relationship where I'm like, well, now when I do touch the stove and know it's hot and my hand is burned, I need someone to help me bandage it up. I'm not going to ask you because now I'm embarrassed. So it was the people that I ran to in my community, thinking even through like culturally, like a Bible Belt, that were kind of like, this is really hard, Rachel. Yeah. Like, I'm here. You're safe with me. That those are the people I ran to. And then as they were bandaging me up, could be like, there's more. I'm like, I know there's more. But those conversations didn't happen with the people that were yelling Jeremiah 29:11 in my face. So I just think it's also this is delicate, like, I don't want to get in the way of God doing something in other people's life. He has his own timeline. He is very strategic. He's a gentleman. He's not going to rush them.
Right.
And so I have to remember that when I see my friends grieve or my friends' kids grieve, to be like, God loves them more than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking a backseat in a neglectful way, but I'm taking like an approach where I'm like, they have to figure this out on their own or it's not theirs in the first place.
Yeah.
So again, So to the culture context, yes, that matters. And then I'll also add too, like my husband I am married to now. Well, the only husband I've ever been married to. I don't know why I phrase it that way. We were high school
married to him at the time, but you were.
Yeah, I wasn't at the time. Maybe that's why I said it.
I'm with you.
We were high school sweethearts. We broke up only 2 months before my dad passed away. My dad passed away. I was going through all these things. He was hearing the things from a distance. He was not a part of it. Fast forward, to answer your question, this is kind of when things started clicking for me. Thomas, this is a long story, but he asked me on a smoothie catch up. We won't even call it date. And we just were talking and I was kind of unloading life on him. And it was so different than the life when we had been dating the first time with the family dinners and the things. And now we're messy. And he just was making sure that I was okay. And I was sort of flaunting the idea that I just was doing whatever I wanted and I was okay and I didn't need your help. And I remember him having at one point in a conversation just saying like, I just know there's more to you. I know who raised you. I know the legacy he left. I know what he built for your family. And I know that like I would want a future friend more, not sure, with that girl. So when you want to be her, let me know.
Wow.
And it just was one of like the first people in my life that I felt like had the relational equity in order to say that, said it. And I think one of the first times I heard it, because I don't think because he was my high school boyfriend, but I think because I had felt safe and he did have the context to the life I lived and also the life I was choosing to live in that moment. That was probably the start of the turn of the ship where I was like, wow, no one has so bluntly told me to pull it together as Thomas Awtrey did in that moment. He's like, come on, what are you doing?
Wow.
And that helped. And then the last thing that I'll add to this, when it all snapped together, and this probably could be another conversation, but spoiler alert, Thomas and I got married. And then our first job straight out of college as newlyweds was to work at a guest ranch. And we had volunteered there in college. And when I volunteered there in college, they assigned jobs prayerfully. Like, okay, you could work in the kitchen, you could be in maintenance, you could be on the ropes courses or whatnot. David, they put me on the ropes courses. And I was like, did you even read my testimony part of the application? Like, that's rude. You know, I'm like, you're going to put me on a ropes course after I lost my dad in a
What was the role
accident?
you were expecting?
Maybe like kitchen or maybe like a housekeeper.
Yeah.
I was like, you're going to
having to face this thing that now is very much a part of your story.
That I've had nightmares about because I wasn't there at my dad's accident. Yeah. Wow. So the imagination, it just was like wicked and evil and hard. And I remember I had a conversation with the dean, the women's dean. She basically said, if there was ever a safe place and a time to overcome some things, it can be here and now. And that's why we're having you face it. And you can always back out. You can always change your mind, but I want you just to give it a shot.
So they did that intentionally. That was not an accident or providence or whatever. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that was sort of the final untangling that gave me a fresh start to start putting things back together or braiding it like it needed to be.
Wow.
That was a lot. That gives you the whole story truly, though.
It's beautiful, though. I think it is amazing how in every one of our stories, you know, there are these themes that come to the surface. We can track it. And when you start to see those motifs, you can see the thumbprints of God on your story. And then it always comes to this place of confrontation of like, hey, you're going to face this thing and it's going to be really hard. But it is the thing that is right now has you in chains. And the only way to find freedom is to actually face it. And that speaks a lot to, one, this organization that intentionally threw you into that they had the understanding to know that. And that it also speaks to your courage to say, okay, despite how much I want to just go work on the kitchen staff, I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to face this. And, wow. Mm-hmm. The community aspect, I want you to double click on that because I love just how as you kind of highlighted it, there was a huge distinction between the people who said the, pithy theological phrases to you, gave you the Bible verses, tried to resolve and solve your pain. And then there was the people who sat with you and they were like, hey, this is a safe space and we're going to just kind of let you be with us. And they formed this, along with obviously Thomas, this like relational equity to where they were allowed to speak in to your life. Can you just talk about that a little bit more? Maybe talk about it as you look back on it and go, okay, here's what that looks like for me, how it informs my relationships now with people.
Mm-hmm. This is almost like a visual that comes to my mind, so I feel like I need to say it. It reminds me of my 2-year-old sometimes when he's so tired. He's thrashing and like bending his back, and I'm sitting there trying to hold him and like rock him and soothe him. And he's just like, no, and freaking out, sometimes screaming, crying. And then eventually the no turns into no. And then he kind of just drifts off to sleep in my arms. I'm like, I knew you were tired. I just was waiting for you to realize it too. And now I can finally lay you down for some rest. And I feel like I needed the people that could hold me and like, let me thrash it out. Let me just ugly cry. Let me do stuff that you were going to help me clean up later.
That's
let
huge.
me make the mess. Yeah. Like, and those are the people I ran to. And I think what's so hard to say and really hard to hear, especially in a church, like evangelical environment, is letting people make a mess.
Wow.
Because I think that we want to keep it together. We want to hold it together. What would our reputation as a church look like if we let this person go? Like, what would we look like as a family member if we just let this person go? Like, what? And that's where I would say, like, you are not the hero. Like, you are not the savior. You are not even the comforter. Like, you are placed on this earth to bring light to darkness, to show evidence that God is here and in control, not that we are here and in control. And so what does it look like to just like yield this person, to pray for them, to intercede for them behind closed doors? That is one of the best ways to partner with God, not to put them in a straitjacket and tell them, like, you've got to pull this together.
Wow.
Like, let them thrash about and trust God's timing. And that if that had not happened and been a part of my testimony, the person I am, the wife I am, the mom I am, the author I am would not be the same version had I not had the ugly. Like, had I not had the parts that I'm like, ooh, this is embarrassing. I know grace better. Yeah. I know compassion and empathy for others better. I have been able to trust God with my own life, that he is able and willing and can pick up the pieces of the things I smashed apart on my own. So much so that I have the patience to watch him do it with somebody else. So I would just like ask and urge and prescribe for people, if you're the person that needs to thrash it out, like, have you had the space that feels safe to do that? And then if you're the person that's watching someone destroy their life, air quotes, like, I'm just urging you to have some patience. Like, God's not done.
Wow.
He has his own testimony for them. And I don't want us to get in the way of it.
Wow. Yesterday, my pastor, we were at church. He said something like, home is the place that you feel belonging and you can let your guard down. It's the safe. It should feel the safest for you. Mm-hmm. And I liken that now to, like, when it comes to church home community, we work with a lot of churches, Rachel. We work with a lot of pastors, and one of our missions is trying to help churches feel equipped as they're helping people in trauma and in pain, because historically the reaction has been, hey, let's slap a Bible verse over this, or pray more, or because we just don't know what to do with this.
Right.
And yet we're trying to encourage churches to create environments where thrashing happens. Mm-hmm. And I love what you just said, where you're going to be there to clean up the mess that they make right there in your house. Mm-hmm. And I tell pastors, hey, if you want a clean church, then don't talk about pain. Don't bring that to the surface. But if it's going to get messy, like, if you're going to invite people into this space of healing, it's going to get messy first. Mm-hmm. But Scripture says, where there is no mess in the stable, or where there's no ox in the stable is clean, right? Mm-hmm. So if you don't want a mess, you're not going to have oxen either. You're not going to have the power behind, right? The force behind the productivity that can happen in the kingdom if you don't want a mess. And so I think that it's just such a powerful image as you're saying this, like, people let you thrash it out. Mm-hmm. And those were the ones that earned the right to speak into you. Mm-hmm. There was a relational equity as they held space for you. I think we can just learn so much from that. Yeah. Because one of the things you said this, God used my grief, repentant heart, and community around me to bring me to a life that is full of joy, abundant, and worth living. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, this wouldn't have been possible, that joy, that abundant, had it not been for these people that created that safe space, that
totally,
that deposited that equity into you, so that then you could begin to start figuring out what this all looked like. Mm-hmm. How did you begin to discover then joy on the other side of this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's something in that question that I want to say, like, discovering joy on the other side of it. I think what I was learning the whole time, and almost God's theme for my life, has been joy is not on the other side, it's here too. Mm. And so even saying, like, for example, even just like the theme and the coincidence that my birthday party would be 3 days after my dad's death. And there had to be this visitation, pause for Rachel's birthday, and then funeral. Like, I had to, again, like, yo-yo back and forth these emotions. But what I can tell you is, like, I was really looking forward to spending time with my friends while I was standing there hugging, sobbing men at the visitation. I was like looking forward to so much more. And then I also had this weird guilt, like, am I allowed to feel excited about my birthday tomorrow? And when I'm also experiencing this, like, the tension was so real. I feel like that tension was almost something the Lord had to bring me through, even into adulthood, where I faced hard things only a few years ago, where I was like, am I allowed to also enjoy something in the middle of this? And then I realized that that is joy. And I think the church has gotten joy a little twisted, that it's not an emotion that you feel when things are finished and done and cleaned up. It's not a personality trait that she has and it's harder for you. It is a gift. It is a skill. And in order to get good at a skill and receive a gift, like you have to put in the work, like you have to get good at it. Joy is rebellious. That's why the enemy of our souls wants us to feel guilty about having it, is because it's defiant. It's supernatural, because it's not for us here on this earth. I even think of recently had this revelation after reading the book, womp womp. So it's not in it, but here's my revelation. I wish I'd made it in, is if anyone would have had the permission, next one. If anyone would have had the permission to skip out on joy because they knew about a life they're about to live that was going to be full of betrayal, full of hurt, full of brokenness, and then at the end was going to get murdered for something that he didn't do but he had to do, it would have been Jesus. But the whole time he dined, he danced, he delighted, he had fun. He literally went from party to party, people's home to people's home, healed people. Annie, our friend, says he even went to weddings when he was a single man. Like, he full sent on life when he had every excuse to cower it out and be like, this is going to be hard. I'll be right here, guys. Like, I don't want to contribute right now. I'm just going to do the mission, cross it off the list, get back to heaven as quickly as possible. He didn't. He lingered. And I want that. I love that example. Like, I can linger. Like, I can delight. I can go dance, even if it's painful. It was the joy set before him that he did those things. It was, I have the hope of heaven. I know how the story ends. And if anyone should be moving through sorrow and pain and grief and all the things that we love to talk about that are needed, then we also have to understand the second half of the story, that is, it was conquered. And if anyone should be living a life full of zeal and delight and joy, it should be believers. Right. So if it's not us and the world is setting the precedent for what joy is, that's why people, 16-year-olds like me, were so darn confused. So I want to start setting this rhythm of guys, we're allowed to love silly things. Like, the world's broken and God still left us behind because he's kind. Like, we're allowed to be frivolous and funny and silly and laugh. It doesn't make us any more mature because we're nitty gritty and strong willed and don't want to talk about it and we're all tightened up. And so it was a journey God took me on, but I'm at this point now and have faced really hard stuff, even in the past few weeks, that I look back on that version of me and the transformation God's done from the first version of me that met trauma the first time. And she's different. And that is just the transformative work of the Spirit. And I want that for everyone.
Wow. Clearly one of the things that
I will die on this hill.
I love it. Oh my goodness. It's so good. Joy is a fruit, right? Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. It is something that comes only supernaturally, but comes through, it's refined through these, right? The refiner's fire. That's how we experience then the formation and shaping of all of the fruit of the Spirit, including joy in our, and just, you so beautifully put there, Rachel, what you just said. You are, so one of the things that marks you that I love, you say that it's funny because people talk about their brand all the time, right? And it's sometimes when we're in these spaces, they talk about brand. Branding is really just who you are, right? Especially in these spaces, who you are.
For
it's
sure.
just this is what marks you. This is what this is your brand, who you are. But who you are is you're just vulnerable. You just are opening things up, and you're opening up conversation. You're opening up your life. You're opening up your world. Why has that been something that's so important to you? What role has that played in your journey with the Lord is vulnerability? Because as a 3, it could be very easy for you, especially to go, I'm going to be transparent, but not vulnerable. We're masterful at that.
Yeah.
But you're kind of
we were really good at letting people in just close enough.
To an extent. Yeah. I know exactly how to be transparent, but to be vulnerable, to actually But I've heard you say a couple of things on this, even, right? I mean, you've said, hey, there's a season where I'm very ashamed and very embarrassed of the things that I did right there. And that's hard to admit, even to go, yeah, here's this season. This has marked you and who you are. Why is that such an important part of who you are and your journey with the Lord?
So here's my disclaimer before I go into it. I do think that there's discernment here of like who belongs where and who needs to know what, right? Like
it's good.
Oversharing, trauma dumping, that's a thing.
Yep.
And you will feel the emotional hangover of it tomorrow. Like it is no fun. Yeah. So like what's said, you can't take back. And so there's discernment here. However, when I can get into a safe space with the right people and say the things that need to be said, I mean, James 5 calls us to confessing, like confess your sins with one another. Like that is going to bring fruit because we are pruning away the stuff, the ugly things that want to hide, bringing it to light, and they shrivel like raisins and they're not as big as we thought they were. That also paired with understanding like God is bigger than my problems and God is bigger than my past and he can clean it up. And if I get so for real about who I used to be and I say that I was embarrassed of her and I just want to go give her a hug and also like smack her, then there's me today, which still needs sanctifying. We have a long way to go, but like I can see the difference. Yeah. If I don't admit there's a difference, then I don't also admit that I needed God the whole time. Like if we've always been put together okay, I say this a lot, like if you were always comfortable, you wouldn't need a comforter. So getting vulnerable almost exposes a part of you where you're able to be like, this is really uncomfortable to admit, or I feel very uneasy in my own skin right now saying this out loud. I think it's also for people that are like, I don't know where God is. Like, I don't hear him. I'm like, are you being for real with your own sin? Because he'll show up because you'll need him to show up. So I think also being vulnerable is like one of the only ways I have found like a shortcut to the Father to be like, I need you so bad right now. I've totally messed this up more than on the days where I'm like, look at what we just did. We are so cool. God's like, well, go ahead and let's take a spotlight for a minute. And then, I want that for people. But also again, like there is this tension of discernment and who needs to know what. Yep. But then again, when you live a life online, it's been really fun to be like, so I was wrong. Actually, this thing is the best, whether it's a vacuum cleaner or something that I was actually super wrong about. It's fun. It's a fun way to flex it and get strong in that muscle. Yeah. While also practicing discernment, like what public people need to know and not. And then also hopefully sets a tone of like, wow, I did think she had it all together. And in fact, she didn't. So maybe I could live that life too. Like maybe I could say yes to what she said yes to. I'm like, oh, there's tons of room for that. Yes. Yeah. That's why it's ninja ministry.
Well, it is. I mean, I think it's this tricky dance. And yet at the same time, you're like, all these things are true. It's like, hey, we can't just like throw the baby out with the bathwater. And we just like what you said, we just lay everything out online because not everybody needs to be privy to everything. There needs to be different pockets and circles of our life where we're like, hey, this is reserved for just these people. And yet at the same time, you're living this life online. So you're living out a little bit more vulnerability than what probably the average Joe would, right? Sure. Or someone who's going to bring more privacy, which of course means you're going to say something that's going to be, or you're going to do something that's going to be like captured, and then it's going to live on the internet. And your 5 years later, version of you is going to say, wow, I was wrong about that. And then to go back and even say that, I think first of all is such a beautiful demonstration of humility. Mm-hmm. And I think it also diffuses any of the like skeptics and haters that says like, I knew you weren't perfect. You're like, yep, I'm not. See, look at this right over here.
I'm the first to admit it. Yeah. Yep, I'm like, let me just turn your shoulders to the person that I'm trying to follow. Yep. And sometimes I get it wrong too. But if you follow him, then that's on you and not on me. I don't ever want it to be on me. Wow. Yeah.
It's so refreshing. I love that. I think I appreciate you taking the time to kind of walk us through that dance a little bit, because I don't think we often are very intentional or thoughtful about that when it comes to these things.
Sure. Yeah. That's so hard to do though.
We've got a lot of people who are, they're navigating different lives, a lot of different circumstances. We have quite a military spouse community. Mm-hmm. You're navigating that life. you said earlier, you're like, sometimes just frankly feels like I'm a single mom. And then there are times, it's seasons where Thomas is home and it's just, this is our family. But that is so difficult to navigate in and of itself. I know when I travel, it's funny because there are certain times when I travel where it's like, hey, we found a rhythm where it's okay, you just pop out, pop back. It doesn't disrupt our rhythms. But then if it's like pop out, pop back, pop out, pop back. So I can imagine like, hey, you're going for a stint and you're coming back in here. This is totally disrupting the flow of what we've had here. I kind of got used to this. Talk about the wrestling with that, the tension of that. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm sure, nights where you're just like, why? What is going on with this life? And yet I know you champion your husband. We all love what he is doing, in service of our country. And so just help us to maybe the folks who are walking through this to identify as well. Call out some of the things that are really hard. Call out some of the things that you've had to wrestle through.
Yeah. I want to say, especially for the people, whether it's the dad or the mom, who's the spouse and not the actual service member, like staying home with kids. It's really hard. There's a lot that, I carry. I don't think a lot of people know, we don't turn on the news because I can't handle it. And, we don't have certain conversations, and we don't, you sit in an office at the military and you have to sign a will before somebody leaves. And you're like, this is strange. Like, let's update all the things to make sure our orders are in place. Like, especially for someone who's been through trauma and lost someone when they shouldn't have, quote unquote, it triggers me. I think I live on this fight, flight, freeze constantly. And that's hard. I don't love the mom that it makes me if I'm not honest with that. I don't like, just like the anxious person that it can make me. I just want to recognize friends that live that life, that it's really hard. And it's not one that I think a lot of people know until you know it, that you just carry on with every day, not knowing what's happening on the other side of the world. And then there's sometimes he's deployed and he's in pretty cush environments and he's at a Hilton and it's kind of like a resort, right? And then there's other times that I have friends and their husbands or wives have been in the desert, and it's just so strange and bizarre how it can be so different.
Yeah.
But doing life alone is impossible. So although I don't have my spouse there, I have stand-in people, and almost like a rhythm. People understand, people know, people understand because I've allowed people in to be like, so he'll be gone from this point to this point, and I don't post about it on the internet. So it's really only the people word of mouth that hear or are in our home group or small group. So there is even friends that are like, I had no idea he was gone. I'm like, how would you? We haven't caught up in a month. Right. So I would also tell my friends, let people in. We have a saying that my friend Ashley told me, you can't see the label from inside of the jar. So other people can see more of what's going on in your life. And sometimes you can when it's crazy and saucy up in the jar. You just need someone else to be like, all right, here's up, here's down. You're going to be okay. We have people put together meals for certain nights that I know they're going to be hectic. I ask for help. I am okay being the needy friend in those seasons. And then when Thomas comes home, it's a celebration for all of us because they're like, one, we're off the hook. Praise God. Two, also, so glad you're back. You were truly missed. You are better here than gone. And that's something I think a lot of husbands especially want and need to hear too. So it's a whole thing. And then his job as a pilot anyways takes him on the in and out, the bebopping, because his job is to travel and to fly. So we have lots of reintegration rhythms that try and hold it together. But above all, community, vulnerability, being able to tell people we're good, but we're not great. We really need y'all to hold our hands up, intercede for us. We're fighting wars in the Awtrey house right now. Yeah. And just to get really for real about it.
Yeah. Yeah. To have those people that are attuned to that stuff is invaluable. I know about a year ago, I started, every time I travel, I have 5 men that I text and I say, hey, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Just pray for our home, pray for our family, pray protection. I'm enlisting you right now as our prayer warriors. Here we go. because I just know that like, and you know this, the enemy is on a heightened alert where he's like, oh, they're divided right now. Okay, this is where I can get a wedge. This is what's 100%. Going on. So I know that you're feeling that. What, practically speaking, are there any reintegration? Maybe this is just for me. Any reintegration tips that you have on that front? You got different rhythms, anything that you've picked up along the way to go, hey, this has been really helpful for us.
Mm-hmm. I'll get super specific. The first day Thomas is home, it's tempting for us to just like be a whole happy family. That doesn't always happen. And so people's expectations get missed or rhythms get kind of shot, and everyone's like very confused about life, especially the boys. Our two boys are like, wait, he wasn't there and now he is. And we're excited, but also welcome back. I guess it just is strange. Yeah. So I actually escape. I'm like, you go, you be dad, you be the hero. You take them and go do something so super fun with some of your guy friends. And the boys and dad and some of his friends bro out. And mom goes and I get my nails done, get a massage, sit at a coffee shop in silence, something that I would want to do to refresh, come back
That's great.
A little bit more whole. Yeah. And then we, as far as parenting goes, like I kind of enter him. It's kind of awkward to say, but like he almost comes up under me in like a training sort of way of like, okay, here's where we're at. Because with 2 and 4, things can change very quickly.
Right.
Weeks, days, but definitely months.
Right.
So when he comes back home, I'm like, okay, here are the new things we're going through. Here are the new meltdowns we're having about these new things. And
so
watch
new tactics that we're trying to employ right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, I don't want you to enter in and like be the bad guy. That's hard for them to be around because you're just all of a sudden reinforcing things again. Like I kind of want to make you like a hero right now. I want them to be excited you're home, not, oh great, dad's here to reinforce all the things mom is saying. Yeah. So like be a pal for them for a second. And then we kind of start merging back into the whole co-parenting thing.
Right.
Which again, it's countercultural. Like people don't talk about that, but that's just what works for us.
Yep.
And then we always have a friend who's like, all right, I'm here for a weekend, y'all get away, or I'm here for a night, like y'all go to dinner, something we have planned for sure. Lots of takeout or people bringing over meals just so that we can just be together and not have to worry about stuff.
Wow. So
just very, very practical things. We just don't try to put pressure on lots of expectations because we just don't even know.
Yeah.
There's always a time zone difference. There's always like a thing. So I'm like, this is just.
It's very fluid. We have a lot
that's on God. Yeah. He's going to have to figure this out with us. And he always does, but we choose different rhythms for sure. And I think it's what's fascinating for people who follow along for sure.
Wow. That's super helpful because it's helpful for those who are part of the military community and those who are surrounding the military community. The church, right? It's trying to be the church for the military community and to know, okay, well, here's how I can step in. It's similar to like stepping in and helping somebody in grief, right? It's like, 100%. This is a different, I wouldn't say a different form of grief. It's just a different form of like stepping in and being community. And it takes some skill to intuit that and to be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Step in to help serve and make sure that it can take some weight off of you right now in a very pressurized or what could be a very pressurized season and situation. You have this book that you've released. By the time we are listening to this or watching this, it's released already. And it's called Love Your Life, even if you don't like it all the time. And I want to frame this question up because first of all, inherent within this title is vulnerability. There it is. It's like, hey, sometimes I'm not going to like my life. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's hard to like sometimes even admit to yourself, but it's also hard as you're trying to navigate it with others in your life going like, wait a minute, why don't you like, I can think your husband's like, why don't you like your life right now? What's going on?
Yeah.
But
I'm working so hard. You love this.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. But it's reality, right? My question is this: how do you assign meaning to your life so that even when you don't like it, you love it? Like this is a lot. I mean, even what you just explained to us right now, that's a lot to maneuver.
Sure.
And it's like, why do we do this? You know what I mean? What's the point of all of this? There's gotta be some why that keeps you pressing through. For you, what is that?
That's so powerful. yeah, I think even just through our whole conversation, people could probably identify the parts that I don't like. I don't like that the grandfather to my kids I always dreamed about having is missing. I don't like that there are some weird consequences of my life that we deal with relationally, familially. I don't like that, fill in the blank, that my husband travels as often as he does. That's just me. But I think when we can get honest about not liking what could be like a very likable life anyways, we start feeling guilty because we know somebody else has it off worse, or we feel a little bit like a brat. But I think that there is vulnerability and intention and even confession of your discontentness with the Lord, and he can actually do a healing work in there, which brings me to like a greater purpose where I'm like, okay, there are things that I don't like, but while I'm on this earth, I will still show up. I want to live a life that's just not half awake the whole time. I want to get to the end and be like, that was so epic. I gave it my all. Whatever that last moment is for me, to be like, I sure would have probably changed a few things because I'm a human, I'm a sinner, and I need God's grace. However, I pursued him wholly. I tried to live abundantly and try to evangelize without saying anything, just because I was able to live a life a bit on display. Going back to the life verse, like I can share the gospel of God with you, but I'd rather honestly just share a lot of my life, and then you'll see the gospel on display prayerfully. And that's my thing. Is there's parts of my life I don't like. When I admit that I don't like them, even to people like girls that I love to mentor, they're like, wait, I'm allowed to say that? I'm like, you need to say it because it's so not strange. A secret.
Like, yes, you should say this, but it is funny how like culturally we're like, wait, can I say that?
Yeah. Am I allowed to admit this? And I get it. Like it is hard. And I think that's the tension we live in, is admitting your discontent is actually almost admitting that we need a savior. Because you're like, I know that there's more to this world. And God's like, right, exactly. There is more than this world. Yeah. And then there's other half of it that we also, again, have the hope of heaven. So we know the full story, and we can live in that tension beautifully here on earth to be like, okay, I can't wait for the next. But while I'm here, let me do my job, which is to be faithful, to confess, to build community, to share the gospel, and to do those things until we meet Jesus. And that's why I'm like, there's purpose. You can, and I will say, I do love my life, even though I don't like it all the time. And everyone can love their life, even though they don't like it all the time. And I want to happen to life more than I want life to happen to me. And we've had life happen to us a lot, Davey. Yeah. And I want to get to the end and be like, whoo, what a ride. Take me home, Jesus. But man, that was pretty cool.
So good. I mean, right there, I want to happen to life more than life has happened to me. And that's reality, right? Like when we really look at it, we go, okay, there are things in this life that we can't control that happen to us, but the bulk of our life, what we make of it, what the meaning that we assign to it, the narrative that we decide to live into, that like, this is a different, as we follow after the Lord, there is a narrative of redemption, of healing, of wholeness. There's this epic adventure that he's inviting us into. And you're, as you said, you're trying to live this thing wide awake, not sleeping through any of life. And I think it's a beautiful thing. You have just, I mean, you've encouraged me so much, Rachel, in this conversation. I know you've encouraged our listeners, folks who are watching this. Thanks. We're going to put in the show notes, a link where you can pick up the book, Love Your Life, even if you don't like it all the time, and all the other places that people can connect with you, including Real Talk with Rachel Awtrey, which is such a good podcast.
Thank you.
And where else can we connect with you? I mean, there's so much else that people are following and connecting, but if there's someone new and they're getting kind of for the first time turned on to what you're doing, where do we connect?
Yeah, you can follow along on Instagram if you're an Instagram friend. That's a fun place. You get a lot of behind the scenes where we talk about being vulnerable. I'd probably say too much, but it's a great place to be. You can just find me at rachel.awtrey. But then you can also join some other fun things online just by texting the word bestie to 55444. And it signs you up for our emails and other fun stuff where it gives you a little bit more of long form. Okay, now here's actually what's going on. So you get behind the curtain access there too.
I love that. Rachel, thank you for really drilling down and getting vulnerable with us and sharing with us. I mean, this has been incredibly encouraging.
Thanks. And I love what y'all are doing.
Oh, very sorry for what you've walked through. And at the same time, I just love seeing the joy of the Lord come through on all of this. And just that in and of itself is a testimony that's going to inspire people as they're listening to this and watching this. And so thank you for spending time. Thank you for investing in our community. We're so grateful.
Thank you, Davey, for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Nothing is Wasted podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation and found it as encouraging and insightful as we did. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen, and leave us a rating and review. Your feedback helps us to connect to those who need these stories of hope and healing most, and to reach more listeners just like you. Also, subscribe to our Nothing is Wasted Ministries YouTube channel. Now be sure to stay connected with us on social media. You can follow us at Nothing is Wasted Ministries. Follow me at Davey Blackburn. We'd love to interact with you, so be sure to stop by and let us know how these conversations are impacting you and your story. And if you want to learn more about all the incredible resources we have available to help you navigate whatever valley you're walking through, visit our website at nothingiswasted.com. If you're ready to get started in your journey towards healing and finding purpose in your pain, we'd love to help. Simply go to nothingiswasted.com/start here for your next step. We want to thank our guests, and we want to thank you, our Nothing is Wasted community, for tuning in regularly. Remember, no matter what challenges you face, whatever pain you are walking through, nothing is wasted. We'll see you next time for another incredible conversation here on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. But before you go, check out this short clip from our next episode. Thanks for joining us, friends.
Red roses are a very powerful and very personal symbol to me of God's redemptive work in my life. And, just the picture of the rose blossoming in the wilderness from Isaiah. And that Christmas, one of my friends, states far away, she was in Texas, and just kept praying like, Lord, how do I show up for Lanier this Christmas? What can I send her? What can I do? I'm so far away. And one day I came back to the house. It was total construction zone. It was just mess. I put a wreath on the door and somebody had thrown it on a pile of debris. And I came in the house and I saw this box on top of a pile of what had used to be my front hall. And I knew immediately what it was, and I knew who had sent it. And I ran back to the camper with it, and I sat on the floor weeping over this box of long stem red roses. And God had just dropped that idea into her head. She knew that it would mean a lot to me. She had no idea how seen that would make me feel. Wow. And I think it can be so personal. But I just felt like Jesus sent me those roses, and he was, I see you, even in this place, there is beauty.